I took a shot of Tren. He told me, he goes, yeah, I took a shot of Tren. I'm like, oh man, like that night, whew, night sweats. I could see I was like, ooh, I was pacing the house. I was like, whoa, I just wish I could go to sleep, dripping sweat. And he's telling me this like one shot of Tren experience.
You did one.
I'm just thinking, I think this is just you. Hey everybody, welcome back to It's Just Bodybuilding. Of course, I'm here with the producer, Scott McNally, and Dusty Hanshaw. How's it going, my friend?
Awesome.
Good.
You guys?
Good to have you guys. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell just once.
Yes, sir. If you don't ring the bell, you don't get the notification.
No.
And how can you watch the show if you don't get the notification? Slight Pink Floyd vibes there. I'll leave that for you guys. And remember the Think Big Bodybuilding Media Patreon. For the price of a cup of coffee, you can keep a producer homed.
Yes.
That's the new term.
You can help me to pay for my bill that I just got to keep my air conditioning turned on. Man, the technician just left the house. It's very expensive. So we could use the Patreon money just to keep me from sweating during the podcast. I appreciate you guys.
I don't want you sweating.
You. No, God, no.
Yeah. We just got a mini split installed in the condo.
Ooh, nice.
So we got like proper air conditioning now. You know what I mean?
Proper.
So that's pretty cool. And it also, I don't know if you guys, I don't know if everyone uses mini splits, but it's also a heat pump. So now in the wintertime, it'll be my heater now, and you turn off the baseboard heaters. And I don't know, you have to live here to kind of understand how our heat works. I don't know how you guys do things, but yeah, it'll be more economical, and it's fucking awesome in the summer.
Nice.
I have to ask because I don't know what does that cost? Because I mean, in the States, you have air conditioning. You just have it. That's a thing.
Right. So it costs $6,000, about $6,000 to get.
Oh, okay. So like an air conditioning unit. Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So it's a mini split. It's a thick, some unit up on the wall.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then there's an air conditioner on my balcony now, a little unit sitting in the corner, and it's piped through the plexiglass on the deck, and routed through the wall and mounted, and it blasts the whole place. It's nice. Real nice. So instead of having a portable unit in the window, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? But not everything comes with AC here, because you really only a lot of people only use AC for like 2 months in the summer.
Right.
But I know where Dusty is, for example. It's an all year event.
Yes.
I love AC. It's got to be in the 60s in my house at all times. But
me too.
Anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. So just upgrading, plus it makes the unit more valuable if you rent it out or Airbnb it or, all that stuff, right? So it's an investment.
I love it.
There we go. So what's the topic today, buddy? We got top 5 hacks.
That's it. That's what we're going with. Top 5 bodybuilding hacks. So it really could be anything.
I thought it was my top 5 favorite hack squat machines.
Body Master, Nautilus, Cybex.
I can tell which one it's not also. Oh, God.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, top 5 bodybuilding hacks. So these are things, just to make your life easier and more efficient, right? That's kind of what a hack would be.
We've got that. Plus,
like a trapdoor.
I have to tell everybody, too, I know everybody loves Ron's stories. And we got a question that relates to Paul Dillett. And Ron started telling this amazing Paul Dillett story before the show. And I was like, stop. Just stop. Hold on to that. Because we're going to have to fire that one back up a little later, too. So I'm excited for that.
Okay, we'll do that. So top 5 hacks. So what are you thinking? What's a hack in your mind, Dusty?
Well, something that's really simple to us because of our traveling lifestyle. I couldn't believe how many people did not know that you can travel on an airplane when you're a bodybuilder with food.
Yeah, I get that.
And didn't understand because they're like, well, how do you keep it cold? And I'm like, well, you freeze the food you're not eating that day. That is now your ice. And then you just put the food you're eating that day on top of that food and you're good to go. And that has been something that every time I've mentioned it, people are like, oh, that's great. Because, for example, if you have like those cooler packs, those are considered liquid. They can't go on the plane, or ice can't go on the plane. So there's all these things all the way down to the point that some people just didn't know you could bring food.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, I know another great one. If I have a long flight, like when we go to England and stuff, I'll freeze one of the meals because, by, 8 hours later on the plane,
Yeah.
it's thawed out and I can eat it. But then also too, if you don't have a frozen meal, like let's say you're leaving from the hotel to fly home and you've just got meals that came from, you just ordered some meals to take and they're not cold. What you do is you take one of your empty Tupperwares and you just, as soon as you get through security, you get someone to fill it with ice.
Yep.
You put the lid on it and now you got an ice pack in your cooler. Like there's just little things like that when I tell some people, they're like, oh man, like it's funny, but yeah, like you just, there's a lot of ways to make it work,
You know what too? Was it you, Dusty, that told me this? Or I can't remember who said it, but they made a good point. You don't want to just like make that meal up the night before and toss it in the freezer and then grab it at 4 a.m. That's frozen, right? But if you leave it in there for like 3 days, then it's like rock solid frozen. And so I've tried to plan a little bit further ahead so that you get that like solid block of ice frozen food when you put it in the cooler, that way it lasts longer. Otherwise it's like halfway thawed by the time you're to the airport. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
Yeah, you want to make sure, especially because when we travel, it's usually for like 5 days, and I would be bringing food for the last day to be frozen. So you want that all the way frozen. That way, by the time you get to the hotel, all that stuff, it's still frozen, and you'll put it in. At that point, when I get to the hotel, I put it in a fridge and hope that stuff starts thawing. And then when I get to the hotel, for example, say I'm flying on a Friday, then Friday I will put Saturday's food on the counter. I didn't put it in the fridge. Okay. I make sure it gets thawed by tomorrow. And you might wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or something and just touch it and be like, oh, I can throw it in the fridge now. Because you also don't want to be rolling into the expo with chicken popsicles. They're not the best.
I also had to keep food cold in Vegas once, and I didn't have a fridge, and I couldn't get a fridge. And I had a couple meals that I had to keep cold. So the bathroom had 2 sinks. So I filled one sink with ice.
Yep.
Okay.
And I just jammed the meals in the ice.
Yeah.
And I just left for the whole day. Was gone all day. Came back. Sink still full of ice. Like barely melted. It was down like that far. The meals were still ice cold, jammed in there. Dumped some more ice on there. Ordered some more meals. Was keeping that your teriyaki restaurant there, Dusty.
Yes.
I was getting that food, putting it in my dishes, and then putting it in the ice.
Yeah.
I just kept the sink full of ice a whole weekend. It worked. Kept my food cold.
That's a good one.
You just got to remember that, like, you got to go back to your hotel room every, as soon as possible and top it up every once in a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's another hack we could think of?
Well, I mean, meal prep itself, I just always thought that's the easiest possible way to make food. And, Dusty, like you said, you still talk to the odd person that doesn't like. I've had people ask me, like, how do you cook your rice? Like, oh man, life can be so easy if you just just cook in bulk. Some people still aren't cooking in bulk. I got one client I was talking to yesterday, and he cooks like every meal, as he goes, which is fine if you're like I work from home a lot, so I can do a bit of that. But for him, I'm like, you're pretty busy. And he's like, yeah, a lot of driving. And I'm like, man, you gotta start, like, you're not packing your meals around with you. Like, I just couldn't believe he hadn't got on that train yet. It was just
it'll burn you out. It'll burn you out if you do that. If you're not, especially like if you're going from not doing a fixed diet, you're a new guy. You start working, say, with one of the 3 of us, and now we're telling you that you're on a 5-meal plan, or maybe even a 6-meal plan per day. If you have to stop and cook each one of those meals, 3 weeks down the road, you're going to be like, I don't know if bodybuilding's for me. You know what I mean?
You know what else too? Very interestingly, I recently wanted to make an effort to eat out less because I was eating out like a little too frequently. And I was like, you know what? I just want to cut back. I want to just, cut back, maybe drop a few pounds, get a little bit leaner. Plus, just like I was spending too much
Save
money.
$100,000.
Yeah, I was like,
right?
like I just blowing money, right? So all I did was I started cooking a little more meat every time. Like when I put chicken on the grill, I put a little more chicken on the grill, and then I have I gotta eat that chicken because I don't want it to get old, like more than 2 days old. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I gotta eat. You know what I mean? Like I overcooked on the meat a little bit to make myself like, I'm gonna run home and eat because I got all those good steaks in the fridge. And I'm like, man, the meal prep stuff still works on me. Like I still don't want to waste food. I still got that old farmer in me that's like, oh, I paid for those steaks. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. Like I don't want anything to get too dried out or too, old. I want to eat it when it's tasty. And it's funny how, that's still a motivator to me. Like, no, I got that meat in the fridge. Those great steaks. I'm going to go home and eat. And it's just, it's worked.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be prepared too. I mean, that's the other side of it. If you don't have that stuff prepared, then you're more likely to be like, I'll go off plan or whatever.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I got a couple that I'll throw in. One is to further this topic, which is a slow cooker. And I know that there's all sorts of other equipment people have nowadays, but I have the good old-fashioned slow cooker. We've actually broke it back out recently, and we started getting like the less expensive cuts of beef that you can slow cook that would be like real dry, real lean meat, but it comes out real tender. And Victoria has been like marinating it ahead of time, so the flavor is really good. And then we just shred it. And then we'll have a huge Tupperware tub of this delicious lean shredded meat when it's all set. You can do whatever you want with it. And then I'll have another tub with a bunch of rice, and then just scoop out what you need each time you want to eat. Throw it in the microwave because I'm at home the whole time. But it's easy, and that food's right there. You don't have to think about it. So I like that one. But I've got one to throw in for dieting, and this is a trick that I've used every time that I'm starving. Because here's the thing: when you're hungry at first, like when you start dieting, you're not used to it, right? Like you go from that off season, you're never hungry, you're always full. And then you start dieting, and then you're like, oh yeah, this is a new sensation that I haven't felt in 18 months or whatever, Right. And that hunger is uncomfortable at first. And plus we're programmed, right? Like we're programmed as a society to eat. It's like, what do you do when you're hungry? Well, you eat food, duh, that's it, And what do you do for like a date? You go out to eat. What do you do for your birthday? You go out to eat. So like we have like a lot of emotional connection to food too. So when I start getting hungry in a diet, immediately like I'm like, oh crap, what do I do? And of course you get through that, but then later that hunger gets like gnawing. You go through that initial stage, and then it dulls, right? And then you get lean, and you get super lean, and then that diet, it's just like the hunger is gnawing. Green tea was my answer. A cup of hot green tea, because it doesn't have any calorie, or it doesn't have any type of calories that are going to take me off diet. I tell myself that it has the EGCG, so it's like antioxidants, although it's probably just a tiny amount, right? And a little caffeine in there. But mid-afternoon, when I'm hungry and I don't have any food to eat, I'll throw a cup of green tea in the microwave. I microwave my water, people. Get over it. Heat that water up, throw a tea bag in it. And you know what? It's like you get to consume something, right? And that tea takes away your appetite a little bit. But I found it becomes like a ritual for me, where like you start looking forward to it. And then you're like, oh yeah, I get to have my green tea now. And you get excited for it. And it's just kind of a little trick to kind of trick yourself into dealing with the hunger while not doing anything that would really take you off plan,
Yeah. Making a bit of, and plus something hot to drink also. You can't just guzzle it.
Yeah.
It's like, so it forces you to sit, calm down, it kind of became a ritual.
Exactly.
I don't know. And maybe something else, was there something else that became attached to that? Like, did you take that time to do kind of the same sort of thing every day? I don't know. Were you reflecting on your diet? Were you like, hey man, I'm hungry, but I can handle this? Like, were there any mantras going along with that?
No, you know what? Sort of I just remember it would also give me that so green tea doesn't have a ton of caffeine, but it does have that caffeine. So yeah, it would,
it's like
dull
50
the hunger
milligrams or something.
Yeah. So dull the hunger and give you a little bit of pep, and it just pick you back up, and it would carry me through the next several hours or whatever. And I do feel, and then I would do like a like a herbal tea or even like sleepy time tea at nighttime because you don't want to get the caffeine in. But then I would have that around, and it wasn't like I was really into it. It's not like I set out and I was like, man, I really love green tea, so I'm going to start drinking it. But like I tricked myself into liking it. You know what I mean? And wanting it because it was something I could have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's funny. I actually had a moment yesterday where I hadn't eaten for about 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I was driving home and I was intensely hungry. Like probably the most, immediate hunger I've had in like I remember reflecting yesterday as I was driving, I was like, I don't think I've been this hungry in years. I think this maybe is like, as far as physiologically hungry, like my stomach felt like I had like a knife kind of poking in it, like that super hollow kind of agony hungry.
Yeah.
And I remember being like I wasn't, I gotta get home. I wasn't grumpy about it. I was like, I'm just going to sit in this. This is what I used to do all the time.
Yeah.
I used to do this all the time. I'm just going to sit in this. Patience is a virtue. I'm going to drive the speed limit. I'm actually made myself sit in it for a while because I thought, this is good. I should be, you should never forget what it feels like to be really, really hungry. And then I started thinking like, oh, this is good motivator for business. And this is a good reminder of like everything I've been through. And I started becoming like philosophical about it as I was driving home, just staying calm and sitting in it. And it was interesting. It was like, I don't know if, that sounds crazy, but it was just something I thought, this is a worthwhile use of this time is I'm going to reflect on how unbelievably hungry I am. And it's like a surprise to me. It hadn't happened in a long time, but it brought back all the memories, like, all the trauma,
the bodybuilding diet,
childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I would have known about the green tea, Scott, because most people, when they're hungry and refuse to eat, online shop.
Oh yeah, that's a more expensive. Green tea is real cheap. It's real cheap.
Green tea, man.
It's real cheap, man.
Where were you for like, I don't know, a decade of my life? That would have been very, very helpful.
I got into L-tyrosine as well, which I'd just get the raw powder of it. It doesn't have any flavor, and I'd start throwing in like a scoop of that, which L-tyrosine helps to reduce your appetite as well, and it gives you a lift, so it was kind of like that was my thing. It became green tea with probably about 1,000 milligrams of L-tyrosine. Nice little boost with it too. And then it give you all the energy to do your online shopping after that, See,
that's what I need to avoid. It's going to put me down. So I was going to say this is a funny hack that will probably not change anyone's life, but I'm hopeful, is I get a lot of questions about warming up. It's a very common thing now. People want to know about your active warm-ups and what are you doing? And I think one of the greatest hacks people could get back to is the simplicity of going to the movement they're going to do and doing it many times with light weight and just letting your, like, all kidding aside, people have lost focus on the fact that every time you go to a squat or a hack squat or whatever, you're reaccustoming your body to the movement. You want to do multiple warm-ups to just find the movement, just get the body moving, get comfortable before you get after it. I think that with all this added information, we're spending a lot of time doing everything but what we came there to do. It's like if you were warming up for football, but they never brought a ball on the field. You should be touching a ball. There should be pucks on the ice when the guys are warming up for hockey.
Yeah,
right.
And I think that
even
gets
the
forgotten.
Even the defensive players are doing stuff with the ball.
Yep,
that's the whole point, right?
Just something to think about, because I do think that I see it. I mean, we have a stretching area in our gym, and it is a madhouse in there. And then you walk over and you'll have, because there's enough young guys now that know me. They're like, I'm just having a hard time getting rolling. I'm like, then why are you on your maximum set right now? I'll do like very regularly. I'm sure, Ron, you're the same at this point. I'll put 135 on a bar, even on like Smith squats, and I'll do 2 sets of it. It's almost hard to do it so light, but that's how I get my body kind of moving. And then we slowly work our way up. Sometimes it's right to 225, 315, 405. Some days there's a quarter in between every one of those.
Yeah.
You know, so sounds like a funny thing to call a hack, but I really do think a lot of people have gotten away from that. And that plays a role in their inconsistency in being able to progress on their lifts because they're not centered with the movement and fluid before they're trying to get their max set going.
Yeah. It's just, it was always just like, what am I here to do? Just do a lot of that to get warmed up. You know, that was just, I don't know, it just made sense to me. I remember having a coach that told me just warm up in your movements. Like, and he even suggested, I remember he told me, he's like, think of what you're doing that day. Like, you might even want to do a warm up set of everything you're going to do that day before you start. Like, just warm everything up. Like, you know, I was like, oh, okay. Like, just walk around, do a bunch of warm up sets, you know, but you're warming up in movements. Like, you're pressing. Yeah. You're doing flies. Like, so yeah, that's what I've always done too, Dusty. Not a lot of like, you know, half hour rolling around on the mats and stuff. I'll do a bit of that stuff in between my warm up sets. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, you know, okay. Yeah. These, anytime there's like, you know, like when I think of hacks, I think of stuff that people waste time doing. Right. You know what I mean? And so like, there's a lot of hacks. Here's a hack. How do you pick exercises? What are the hardest exercises that you can think of? Yep. Okay. Do those. There. Yeah. You've just designed your workout. Obviously there's nuance, like have you had 3 elbow surgeries and blah, blah, blah. And then ongoing, but you start at the baseline. It's like, what are the hardest movements? You know? So when it comes to leg day, I always pick, hack squats, leg press. These are all movements that are really hard, really well braced, and you can use a lot of load on them, and they require the most effort, you know? So they were the main exercises. So
I feel like the simplicity of that hack is so genius because, for example, when you go to the gym and you're feeling a little tired, say it's back day, it's really easy to go do all the hammer equipment. I'll just do the hammer today. But, you know, I have to say when we were at Muscle Factory during that time when we weren't allowed to go to other gyms that we can't mention, we didn't have any of it. So our choices were rows of different sorts, you know, because the gym was in its infancy. And it's funny, you look back and then all of a sudden when everything opened back up, all I ever did was row and T-bar row and Meadows row. And then you're looking and your numbers are through the roof because that's all you were doing. And I really realized that you get away from that stuff truly out of laziness. It's not to say I don't find the equipment usable. I mean, I still use it now, but I think that my physique was better served when I didn't. When the majority of the time I went in there, it's like I always tell people, do the stuff you don't want to do because there's probably a reason. Like I hate parking lot lunges. And I think that when I would consistently do them, I saw great results, you know, and there's a lot of reason for it. I got to drag all the stuff outside and do the whole thing, but it was worth it. So I used to always say like, what do I not want to do today? Like, you know, I never really wanted, I never liked doing RDLs. It looked like I did because I filmed them every week and always posted them up, but I hate those things.
Really?
Yeah. I hated doing them. It was because it's your second pull of the week for me. Sometimes I would deadlift it a day or two before, but I found the stretching movement to be the most important thing to hamstring growth to me. So I'm like, all right, load them up.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Okay.
So what was that next topic, Scott?
Next topic? So I don't know how many hacks we had, but we've
hit 5, and I don't have any off the top of my head that are just slaying.
Yeah, because I could think of a bunch more, but yeah, because I think that for some reason, Skip told me this. You know, Skip writes for Elite FTS, and he said you want it to be in odd numbers. So like 3 best hacks or 5 best hacks or 7, but as long as we didn't give 6 right now, we're good. All right, guys. As long as we didn't give 6.
Okay.
I'm nervous. I'm like, shoot.
We'll have to.
The show tanks and ends. Yeah. Just delete one if need be.
I can do one more quick one if we need.
You might take us to 6, man. We might be in trouble. I think we're good. But we did have one. This is the question right here, and this will give us an opportunity to hear Ron's story. And I want to hear what you guys have to say for your answers too. This one was from YouTube. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions, put them up here on YouTube. We need as many questions as you guys can think of, bodybuilding, off topic, everything else. But Trevor Phillips, he said, what physiques had the most potential that maybe we didn't see come to full fruition? For example, Paul Dillett, Justin Compton, etc. And literally right before the show, Ron was telling you started telling that Paul Dillett story. So I had to cut you off because we needed to hear that here.
Okay, well, Paul Dillett's a great answer for that question, obviously. And, not that he didn't, I don't know, fulfill potential, but there was a lot of stuff looking back, like, his posing was always a problem. And, everyone said that he needed, his back development was an issue. And, a lot of people, saw videos of him training. A lot of people said, like, he could have been, even higher up on the Olympia placings if he would have, had things more, in tune with what his potential was. And, he was top 6 at the O a couple times, wasn't he? Yep. I can't remember. And then that one year he was looked like he was going to be top 4 in the call outs in the morning, and then he didn't make the night show. Do you remember that year that he pulled out? It was crazy. It was like super dehydrated. If you watch the Battle for the Olympia video, they're on their way to the prejudging. They show a video of like them all walking to prejudging, and Paul Dillett's guzzling Gatorade. Oh wow! So like he's way overdone. And then I guess he makes it through prejudging and is in the first call out, like with Dorian and those guys. And then I think that's the year he didn't make the night show. So
there was the time he froze on stage, and that
was at the Arnold Classic.
Okay,
he said he used injectable Lasix for that show.
Yeah.
And he literally froze on stage like a statue, and they had to carry him off. And they IV'd him backstage. He almost died. That was crazy.
I heard John Romano tell that story because he was coaching him for that. And he said they were backstage and he's looking at him and he's like, yeah, he looked really good. And he just had this little bit of water, just this little film of water. And we're like, you know what? I think we can get rid of that. And they hit him with some Lasix backstage. No. And speaking of which, guys, it would be awesome if we had John on this show. So anybody watching,
I'd love to have him on.
You guys, like, pester the heck out of John. Tell him to come on the It's Just Bodybuilding podcast with Ron and Dusty. That would be freaking cool to get him here. But I remember him telling that story. And then he said he was like, I saw the video. So he was frozen like a statue, right, Ron? Like, just frozen, everything locked up.
He locked up on stage and he just kept getting more and more locked up. Whew. And there's a photo of officials. There's like several people carrying him off.
It would have to be.
and he's still like in position like a mannequin.
Holy crap.
Like it's crazy. Yeah. So that was, but my story about Paul was the first time I met Paul, which would have been 1996 when I went to Gold's Venice for the first time. And, we had finished our workout and we were standing outside Gold's drinking our probably Carbo Force
I remember those 109 grams of sugar.
Yeah, probably like 100 grams of sugar. Yeah. And we're drinking our carbo drinks, probably purple grape.
I can taste it now.
Or fruit punch, the syrup, the cough syrup, fruit punch.
Pure syrup.
And those ABBA drinks, or whatever. Yeah, so funny. Thunder Force and all those crazy stuff from the 90s. So I'm standing out front drinking one of those, and the total the Hollywood, like we're reading the magazines. We think pro bodybuilding is like Hollywood, right?
Sure.
Because we're fed this image of these guys in Venice all living it up and stuff. And it just, this Mercedes 500 SL convertible pulls up in the parking lot. It's black. It's got the chrome on it. It's, top down. Dr. Dre, I'll never forget, just bumping out the speakers. And it's Paul Dillett. And he pulls up, parks right in the front, like the best possible parking spot. Like the preacher curl is right there now.
Okay.
Because they got the equipment in the parking lot
outside,
now.
Yeah.
So he pulls up and parks like right in front of the gold statue, like the best spot there is. And he takes one look at us and he knows like we're gym tourists, kids, right? You know, we're obviously not local. Might as well have shirts on that say "I love LA." You know,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
standing there, Paul Dillett gets out of the car and he just looks right at us. "How's it going, boys?" And we go, Good, Paul. Hey, man. And he's like, "You guys already train?" And he pops a trunk and grabs his bag. I still remember it. And he like walked right up to us. He was humongous, and he was wearing the old NPC zip up.
Oh, yeah.
With the NPC crest and no hood. Remember the one that had no hood? It just had like a crew neck and it was a zip up.
Right.
He
Yep.
had one of those on. It was black. And he had, I still remember he had the purple and black striped California baggies. Right. And, I just walked up to us and was talking to us for a few minutes. And I told him, first thing, I'm like, "Hey, we're from Canada too." Right. Like, we wanted
Of
him
course.
to know, like, you know. And he's like, "Oh yeah," and he starts talking to us, and yeah, it was funny. That was our first day at Gold's Venice, but I'll never forget, you know, Paul Dillett pulling up in that car. It was like right out of a magazine. It was like what
That's
they
so
wanted
cool.
you to see. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
exactly what they wanted you to see.
How old would you have been then?
Would have been 21. No,
Okay.
20. It was 20. It was 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That was a different time, man. I mean, I wasn't there that early.
Yeah.
But going to Gold's between then and as late as even like 2008 or so was a thing. Like even when you'd been there 100 times, like you had to get to Gold's Venice when you were there.
Yeah.
And now as good as they have altered the gym and made it, you know, like we just did the Mutant on a Mission of it. It's great, but it's not what it was. It's not the Gold's that it used to be, at least not to me. Like you walk in and I mean, you would go in there and literally see everyone. I mean, the first time I went in there, like I felt like I didn't want to stare because I couldn't believe they were all there. I mean, everyone you could think of from the magazines. And it seemed like it didn't matter when you went, they were all there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, back then, Charles Glass pretty much lived there. You could be there at 4 a.m. or 8 p.m. and he was there, you know, and then he'd be training one of the pros. And it was always just awesome to watch. And I'm sure they could all tell when you're like trying not to watch, but you are. It's like when too much boobs are hanging out and you can't stop looking. Same thing.
Yeah.
But
You get that picture I sent you?
I got it.
Look at this.
See if I can pull that
That's
up
what I'm
here.
talking about. Paul cramped up at the Arnold.
Yeah, that's wild.
Like literally carrying him off stage like that.
That's just nuts. Just frozen.
Yeah. Bad news, kids.
That's crazy. That's a good question, though. It is a good story. I knew that was going to be good. I'm glad we saved that one. So, who would you guys come up with as people? You know, he mentioned Justin Compton, and because we looked at this question before the show, and Dusty, you were like, "I don't know if Justin Compton didn't reach his full potential,"
Yeah.
but I think he means like could he have been on Olympia? You know, like he hadn't been around to like work in the scene and stuff like that.
My opinion on Justin Compton as a pro bodybuilder is that even though his career was very short, what he did with his physique was so extraordinarily awesome.
Yeah.
That like I have a real hard time saying that he didn't like reach his absolute potential. Like, I mean, his physique could have improved over the years and all that stuff if he was like, you know, another 5, 6, 7, 8 years in the ranks. But really, like, he got pretty close to what I'd call like as good as someone's going to get. Like, you know, obviously he, you know, who knows how big he would have gotten, but like that, it's not like he fell short.
Well, there's nothing
like
missing. You weren't going like, well, if you just brought his
crazy.
arms up, then he could really
and
get
the
something.
mass he carried at his height and stuff.
Yeah.
He was like,
Yeah.
he checked all the boxes. And another guy that fits into that exact same category where you're like, you know, he won the Arnold, so it's hard to say he didn't fulfill his potential, but his career was so short, was Mike Francois.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike Francois, he won the Arnold Classic, but you know, his pro career was really only like 2.5 years, 3 years, and then it was over with. Right as everyone was like, oh, here we go. Like, you know, I still remember those locker room shots that came out of Mike Francois. He was getting ready for the Arnold. He'd already won the Arnold, and he was getting ready for the Arnold again. And all of a sudden, word got out that he got sick and he pulled out. And it was the colitis or Crohn's or whichever one of those he has. But then, you know, several months after, you know, people had kind of found out like that Mike was done, these pictures came out. They were like, you know, old develop at the store photos, you know, that got taken in the locker room. And I think they were like 4 weeks out of the Arnold Classic that he was supposed to do. And these pictures came out and everyone was like, oh, fuck, what was that? Like, whoa, what was going to happen? Like, it was that type of thing. Everyone was like, Jesus, these were nuts. And people didn't expect that, but it was a big level up from his already Arnold win. Yeah. You know? Right. So, you know, it's funny. I just had a buddy compete at his show on the weekend.
Oh, and, no kidding. Oh, you know, yeah. That just happened.
And got to meet him, take a picture with him and stuff. So
that's cool.
That's funny. And Mike Francois is one of the guys I've never met.
Okay. I was just going to say, I met him a couple of years back. I was hanging out with Mike Davies at he's a personal trainer. He works with people down at Metro Fitness outside of Columbus. I forget. I think it might be Worthington. It might be the city that he's in. But yeah, I met him, and Mike was like, Mike Davies was like to Francois. He was like, "Hey, get a load of Scott's calves. He'll give you a run for your money." And he didn't want to have anything. He was like, fuck that. You know, he's like, nah. You could tell he was like still competitive about that kind of stuff. You know, he's like, nah, man, you can't beat me.
That's funny.
He still had some legs on him, was the thing, is what I'm getting at. He had some wheels. You could see the calves are still there. Yeah.
Yeah. He had one of those physiques where, like, no matter how small he gets, like, he could be like a 170-pound man. And I bet if he pulls his pant legs up, he's still got like crazy looking legs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So I was going to say for another one that's a real, that we can definitely say truly didn't, was Richard Jones.
Yep.
Because he turned pro and then just stopped. Like, I think he did one show, the New York Pro or something.
I'm going to, because I don't know who that is. When
Richard Jones. He looked like the second coming of Sean Ray, essentially.
Yeah, okay. A little taller, but just
a little taller, a little bit bigger framed. Sort of like if you took Flex Wheeler and Sean Ray and sort of like cross them, you get like a Richard Jones looking.
Is this him?
Yeah, like Is that Richard Jones? Yeah,
it's him. Yeah, that's not him in contest shape, but that's him. He was. He's just one of those guys that when he won the USA's, I knew it was like, uh-oh. Like, we got a guy who can win immediately and will soon be a contender. You know what I mean? At any show. So that was one that I would hoped. Yeah, there you go. It's a little more what I'm looking for. Yeah. And he was not heavy there. He was like, I mean, he turned pro as a heavyweight, I think. So, you know, he's under 220 pounds, you know.
Check out that one, Ron.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was awesome. And didn't he turn pro and that was it? Did he ever do a show?
I think he did one, I think.
Right. I barely got his feet wet. Yeah, I'm sending you one of the greatest photos of the 90s, and this guy's on the list.
All right.
This is just like...
Oh, it's a real blurry one.
Well, it's just... But just everything about it is so 90s.
It won't. It's going to be super blurry.
Oh, it's super. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, DeMeo. Yep.
Paul DeMeo and the Metarex ad.
I'll see if I can find it over here. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, he's a guy, man. I mean, that dude. I mean, he turned pro and he went to prison and, you know, didn't he die in jail? No, I think he died in jail of an overdose, didn't he? Or did he just die of an overdose?
Didn't even know that part.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a bad domestic dispute, and he had a gun charge, and he wound up doing some time. He became an addict, and I believe he died of an overdose. Yeah, died of an heroin overdose.
Man,
but
that's a lot of muscle.
Paul DeMeo was fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts. Yeah.
Does anyone think that he was training with reps in reserve?
Yeah, look at those legs on him.
Yeah. So Aceto told me a great story about when he got his pro card.
Really?
Yeah, he said that he got super sick, like vomiting, diarrhea all day Thursday, vomiting, diarrhea all day Friday. He was like flat and depleted. He was in shape though, but he was like way down. And I think he even went to the hospital because he had vomited so much and all that stuff. And he had like a real bad gastro bug, like something got him like bad. And so anyways, Friday night he starts feeling a little better and he starts being able to keep fluid down. So he just drank like sugary drinks all night. Chris said he carved him up on like 7-Up and Gatorade and just drank carbs all night. Couldn't really eat anything. And by morning, he at least had some veins on him and he was coming back to life and went and won the whole overall.
Jeez.
It's a rough way to win, man.
Yeah. Just guzzling fluid trying to fill out.
What's this shot you sent us here, Dusty?
So this was, I think, after Richard had turned pro and started putting more size on. And that's when you really saw what was coming.
Yeah. It's like, looks like Rodin.
I mean, imagine him with just years. And he just made the decision to get it, take his life in another direction and probably went and made a ton of money so he could really have a S-Class Mercedes forever versus bodybuilding. Yeah. But whatever. Yeah, I was just really impressed with him. And I think, he got contracts immediately, the whole thing, and made his own choice to roll out.
That's wild.
Yeah, I can't blame him.
That's wild. This is a good topic. You guys, you have anything else that you wanted to throw in here? Dusty, I know you sent me a bunch of stuff. I've got a few listener questions. Like I said, we needed some more. Ron, was there anything you wanted to jump to? I've got Dusty's here if you wanted to look for a minute.
You can do, let's do one of Dusty's and then I got one for us.
All right. I'm just going to start from the bottom, Dusty. Let's see here. If no HBCD, highly branched cyclic dextrin intra, would maltodextrin do? Any experience with that?
Shoot, guys.
Well, I've never been great at drinking carbs intra-workout. Even the cluster dextrin, I have a limit on how comfortable I feel. Like, do you know what I mean? I tried to drink 100 grams of carbs during my workout with insulin. I remember doing that and just never feeling like my stomach, no matter how good it's supposed to take it, there was always a limit. Like 25 grams in like a liter of water. So it's pretty diluted. I could do that on like arm day and stuff. But on leg day, I always opt for like almost nothing in my water. I put a little bit of salt and a little bit of EAAs, and it's really diluted. My stomach has never been like a heavy drink during the workout. It's always kind of been more of a water type of. I'm a water guy, basically, is what I'm saying. So maltodextrin is like super cheap carb, but I mean, at the end of the day, who cares about carbs? Like they all get broken down the same into glucose. And if you're trying to get something fast, maltodextrin's pretty fast. It would just depend on, like, some people get the shits from maltodextrin.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Digestibility.
So, it's just all about digestibility. I've had people arguing about carbs all the time. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's all sugar. If you want something fast, I mean, you can always get Gatorade powder off the shelf at the grocery store. It's like super cheap, if you want to do that. But I don't know.
That was the take I did because I answered those this week.
Didn't really say anything.
If you need carbs and you're not going to spend the money on the other, then it's fine. I used to drink strawberry soda post-workout, and people used to always ask, "Oh, why?" And they thought it was like a secret. And it was just because there was a time I could have pure sugar post-workout, and I liked the taste.
Yeah.
And same, Ron, like back in the day when I was broke, buying the giant jug of the powder of Gatorade from Costco went a long way, and it tasted good. So I just scooped that in my water, and that was my intra drink. So I just think don't overthink it. Is going to be the overall gist of almost every answer I always have is don't overthink it.
I remember some advice I was given from a friend of mine when I was young. He said carbs should basically be free. They're super cheap. Like when you go to a restaurant and when you go to a restaurant and you order beef and rice, you notice how you get a little bit of beef and you get a massive pile of rice. That's because the rice is free.
Yeah.
He's like, it doesn't cost them anything. Don't pay for carbs. So like, I remember when these expensive carb stuff started happening, he's like, it's bullshit. Don't pay for carbs. He's like, carbs are super cheap.
I love this guy.
You know?
I remember when highly branched cyclic dextrin first came out, and John Meadows was talking all about it, and he was talking about it on the podcasts. And that's when I trained with Shelby, and he and Shelby were good friends. So that's when John was sending us his training plans, and they were talking all the time. And so I was doing what Shelby was doing, and that was we were pushing the carbs up. And he was like, yeah, try more. And before you know it, you literally had like a gallon jug, you know, just to be able to consume all those carbs in a workout. Because the one thing I will say, Ron, is I found that the people who had digestion issues, like the key is you got to have so much fluid. Like it gets to be so much. Yeah, that you're just like chugging water like in between your sets. It was a ton. But I remember, so before that, I you know, dextrose powder, like you said, Gatorade. You can get like a big old bag.
Wine aisle.
You get a big old bag of dextrose powder. And the only thing is there's a limitation to that. And here's what I would say is, like, even if your digestion, even if you don't get like diarrhea from, you know, dextrose and stuff and maltodextrin, see how hungry you are after you train. I found, because I did a lot of maltodextrin for a while, and what I found is my stomach would just feel full and kind of bloated, you know, and it'd be like 2 hours post workout, and I'm just like, you know, just suffering eating that next meal, you know, and I'm not hungry for hours. So, you know, that would be a thing. Does Mutant have any kind of a standalone carb? I know that they were planning on possibly doing something, but is there anything right now that they have?
No, they've formulated. I helped formulate a few ideas when I was there, and they've formulated a few things, but it's not a space they've stepped into fully. You know what I mean? Just one of the products. They just, you know, there's a lot of companies doing, you know, just pure carbs and stuff like that, but they just haven't stepped into that space.
Okay. Oh, and I'll mention, because True Nutrition, when I was like basically like, for me to buy a supplement when I worked for the pop company, it was like my entertainment fund would go to like the supplement that I was buying, and you could get a bag of Carbo Load for like $20, and it's like 30 scoops, and each scoop is 50 grams. So there's, if you do a half a scoop, there's, you know, 60 workouts right there. So I used that, and for me that was better than dextrose, but it's not as clean as the highly branched cyclic dextrin. So there's that.
Yeah, and the margin on the branch chain cyclic dextrose is
low, isn't
low.
It? Yeah,
super low. So if you want to do a pure cluster dextrin carb powder, you know, and be like top shelf, like we are all cluster dextrin, there's no any other carb in here. There's like, the margin is infinitesimally small. Like, in fact, I remember Mutant calculated like all the costs, like, you know, there's other products on the shelf. What are they retailing for? And they did the math, and they're like, they're not making anything on these products.
Yeah.
In fact, they're almost a loss leader to bring people into the brand.
Right. So, you know, with that said, watch out, guys, because if you see a company that advertises this is a highly branched cyclic dextrin product, and then it says, you know, 15 grams of highly branched cyclic dextrin, 15 grams of the, you know, excitocarb matrix, then that excitocarb matrix, I'm going to tell you guys, it's real cheap. That's dextrose. So save your money and just get the pure highly branched and go from there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Excito, whatever like name you can give your proprietary blend.
Right. Exactly.
Create something.
Oh no, it's Ultra Carb 47.
Yeah.
Ultra Carb 47. And what is that? Sugar.
And there's a lot of people doing that now, so watch out for that.
Yeah. Big words.
Yeah.
Beware of big words.
Did you find one over there, Ron?
Yes. I can look this up here. I had it on my screen, but I don't have my phone frozen, so. Okay. There you go. Okay. What do you tell your athletes in regards to training when they get to 4 weeks out? And what do you tell your athletes in regards to any sort of PRs while they're prepping?
Ooh. This one's tricky for me because it's very individual. Most of my athletes I don't have to worry about them hitting PRs because they're not going to. but you do have some that are in that wheelhouse. The big thing that I try to remind them is, because I am a believer that there's only a few reasons for muscle to either grow and or stay. That's an excess of calories, drugs, and training, how hard you train, that makes the body have to do to maintain it. When you're dieting, you've pulled the calories out. Obviously, we know if you're not natural, the drugs are there. But if the training goes down as well, you are going to lose mass. I mean, you're giving the body only one reason to hold it, and the drugs isn't enough. So you'll lose size. But it's important at that point in time when you're thinking, especially if you're a progressive overload person, how's a way to create progressive overload without necessarily more weight or more reps? And that's when I like to force guys into slowing the negatives down. Say they're doing a leg press, doing a 2-count pause at the bottom, then coming back up. So we can stay in that mindset of progression, but literally in the middle of the game, I'm changing everything. Because if all of a sudden your leg press is a 6-count negative and a 2-count pause at the stretch, you're going to have to drop 5 plates aside to do that. 4 plates aside to do that. And now you can get back into that chase, but we're doing so safely, So I am a proponent of pushing to the max, but I definitely think somewhere, depending on how lean they are, 4 to 6 weeks out, you got to change the mindset.
Yeah. What about you, Scott?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think what you said, Dusty, that it's going to be individual. It's really going to depend on the person. I think through the prep itself, the idea is to stay strong, that we aren't like switching to higher reps to, etch in the muscle. We're not doing that kind of thing. The only thing I'm concerned about, like one of the variables when we say it's individual, is like, how are you recovering from it? And what is happening in the muscle? Like, I don't want to create like a bunch of tear down that we can't repair and potentially cause like extra water getting pulled into that muscle that's going to keep it looking like, I've seen guys that'll hit legs really hard and then the scale goes up and they're inflamed. They're holding water after a hard leg day. They go up a couple pounds. It's like, we don't want that as we close in. And I don't think we're going to have to worry about really losing muscle. And it's really like at that point, I really just want to try to maintain, and I don't want to do anything that's going to get somebody hurt either,
Yeah. Yeah. Risk has to be assessed. And, I mean, we have to, every time we train, we're taking risks, right? Yeah. Every time you go to the gym getting ready for a show, you're taking a risk because like crazy stuff can happen. And like, you might not have any previous, symptoms of something about to go wrong, so there's always a risk that you could walk in the gym and hurt yourself. Especially when you're training hard to be big. But you have to, one of the keys is to recognize that there's always risk and try to work to minimize it, I always think in terms of like statistical odds, I always come back to statistical odds because whenever I think of odds, like real odds, it actually calms me down, if I was nervous about doing something and someone said, hey, your odds are greater of being struck by lightning twice than of this going wrong, I would relax because I like those odds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anytime my spidey senses go off when the odds are drastically increased on something. And so I just say, you got to do your best to just not do dumb shit that could put you at risk. Like if in the off season you maxed out at the 150 dumbbells for like a solid 8, I don't want you trying the 180s for a single 4 weeks out. Like just nothing about that makes any sense. And I think most people know that, but I still see the odd guy doing stuff during prep that blows my mind. I seen some guys that are like, 8 weeks out and they're doing like heavy doubles on the squat. Like where they need a spot for like a double. So like a 2-rep set. I just think, man, it's not the time for that. There's nothing about the final stage look that is dependent on you doing that right now. It in your head, you might think, oh, this is what separates me is I'm willing to do this shit. But hey, man, you're watching too many Ronnie videos. I hate to tell you, and I mean, still, you know, look how what happened, you know, as a result of like doing heavy triples for the camera when you're a bodybuilder. You know, there's a risk, and you have to try to just minimize risk. Don't do dumb shit. Train as hard as you possibly can, but be sensible about your poundages and your form and all that stuff, you know. Is that enough? That's enough
good.
of that
Yeah,
one.
I think we nailed it.
That's good.
Okay. So we got to talk about this because I just got to bring this up. This question, and I mean, he worded it in a comedy way, but it's a topic that I've seen several other podcasts talking about. Is it true that Tren or DECA can make you gay? He said, just browsing the forums, man, there's some wild stuff out there. So I don't know what forums he's looking at, but we did mention
that might answer a lot of the question right there.
Right. So, but we did kind of jokingly talk about how there's some evidence that, you know, Trenbolone can make you more perverted and more thrill seeking. You know, I've seen, like Vigorous Steve was talking about this, the other day on one of his podcasts, and just on how androgenic Trenbolone is.
Yeah,
and
right.
how, you know, your brain has androgen receptors in it, and with Trenbolone, you're sort of super saturating the shit out of your brain with these androgen receptors. So,
Right.
you know, is this, do we have a lot of Tren abusers out there that are just getting like more and more degenerate? Or what's going on?
Well, my serious answer to the question is based on what you just said. If that is entering your mind, then I have good news for you. You wanted to do that anyway, so do it.
That's a good reply right there.
I mean, dead serious, because I think, look, taking a funny thing and twisting it, it's like so many people live in some, and I'm not talking about even gay, straight, whatever, live in a world of where like, I probably shouldn't do that because of whatever. I'm sorry, but if Tren makes you want to do something, you know, whether it's, you know, be gay or do some other thing and your wife's down or whatever, you wanted to do that already. You just didn't have the balls to say it. So get it going. Like, damn.
The Tren gave you the courage.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I mean, dead serious. I look
yeah.
at it like, listen, I've used a lot of Tren in my life and I never wanted to be gay. So it doesn't
Right.
make you do something you don't already want to do. So if that's where you want to go, man, run with it. You know, and good news for you. I know a lot of good looking gay guys. Just, you know, let me know. I'll send them your way.
Well, we definitely know that steroids, you know, affect your sex drive, and so, you know, if you just take, you know, say to make the ultimate stack of androgens, you know, Trenbolone with a little halo testin, with, you know, I don't know what else is like super. I don't know what. Get some old check drops, get the old powerlifting check drops, just the highest androgen concentration you could possibly hit your brain with, and just see
Find out who you are.
What happens to your browsing history? So your browsing history really went off a cliff here when you put the halo in. Like, I don't know what was going on. It was like, you know, girls and butt sex, and then the halo went in, and all of a sudden, there's all this crazy stuff happening. Yeah. So not that that's a conversation. There you go. Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Scott?
I'm just over here wondering if this should be the headline for the show now or something, you know? and how will the YouTube monetization handle that?
The best part of that was Scott's face when he was trying to figure out where this was going to go in the beginning. He's like, "This." He's like,
as the producer, I bear some
I
responsibility.
don't know if we should do this question.
Well, I've been watching the sidetrack, and I haven't seen Time to Move On, Ron. So,
no.
Whoa. Yeah.
How could you? Yeah.
Well, we don't want to turn the podcast. We've talked about this. We don't want to be like a fart joke podcast, right?
Yeah.
But you know, this is serious business.
It happened. Yeah, we had to talk about it.
We
Just to
made
think
it
about-
serious, actually.
I imagine there's some people out there. Imagine there's some guys. I wonder if there's some girls out there too, where, you know, they push the dose up a little bit, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh my god, I'm into some sick shit."
Yeah.
I knew that before, but then I really knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, geez. Yeah. Like, what happened to you? Oh, I went over 1,000 milligrams and like, whew. Okay. What's next?
All right. We had a bunch of stuff here. Yes, we had a bunch of stuff here.
To Scott that we did yesterday.
Let's see. I had some too. Let's see. Let me see if I could find. We had we did have this. I wanted to throw this one up here. This is just a general comment to everybody. Kenneth Kidd, he says, I think YouTube unsubscribed me. I went to watch the show and the subscribe button was up. So I've been unsubscribed for like 2 years. Just throwing it out there to you. YouTube will do that from time to time. And I actually reached out to them. I'm like, what are you guys doing to me? And they said that they'll test you to make sure you're a real account. So they'll say something like, how did you like this video? And if you don't respond to that, then they'll recognize that you may be a bot. So then they'll start unsubscribing you.
Dumb questions.
Yeah, they're doing their best. They're doing their best. They have. Oh man. In their defense, which is hard for me to do, they literally have. I can't remember how many minutes of uploads they get every hour, but they're getting inundated with so much. And it's just the reality is they can't control it. Like they can't. So that's why we end up getting slammed sometimes. Also, we got another comment here that I thought was very nice. He says, I mean it in a good way. The Three Stooges of bodybuilding. That's us.
Which one am I?
Now I have to research which one I am.
Yeah.
Yes. My first thought too. I was like, I don't know which is which, but I want to know. I'll be able to figure it out quickly.
It's Larry, Curly, and Mo, right?
Yeah, but I don't know what is what. So
yeah, it's Larry, Curly, and Mo. Okay, well now I need to find out if someone's going to call me one of the Three Stooges. I need to know.
So here's a serious one. He says, here's me probably way overthinking something, but I'm building a diet reversing out of my show from the past weekend, doing a ground beef meal for meal 5, and I usually just turn into burger patties and grill them, doing about 50 grams of carbs with this meal as well. Is there any reason not to get those 50 grams of carbs from buns and have burgers with sugar-free ketchup?
Perfect meal. Perfect off-season meal. Eat it every single day. I did. I used to make homemade burgers. I ate homemade burgers every single day for entire years on end.
There you go.
Yep.
Absolutely. Train hard, eat. Yes.
Don't get caught up in the where the carbs came from.
Oh my God, I have to have 50. White rice.
Yeah. Yeah. What about semaglutide? Jim McDonald asked. She says, for It's Just Bodybuilding, where do you all stand on semaglutide, or AKA Ozempic?
So I only really paid attention to Ozempic when it first came out, and there was they were talking about some of the side effects and giving it to people that, needed to lose weight and stuff. But I just sort of had a whole bunch of other stuff that was more important on my plate, and I sort of stopped paying attention. I'm sort of going to let people sort it out and see if anyone drops dead in the next, I always kind of sit this stuff out, right? I just kind of wait. Yeah, just see what happens.
Ron, just going to step back.
You guys argue amongst yourselves. Yeah, I don't know.
So obviously,
what's the news?
With Transcend, I have a lot of people who have went and gotten onto it that are heavier and want a little speed the process up and are getting great results from it. The only thing when I did a little research and I didn't dive in, so no one attack me, was for a bodybuilder, be cautious of the fact. I don't like when people start using things like that could lose the weight without, and they don't realize the other things that come along with it. It does not ignore muscle tissue. So you want to keep that in mind as well. There does come a little bit of a risk of losing some tissue as well. So my advice is simple. If you're someone who's struggling to lose weight and you want some help along the way, great product. I have personally moved a ton of it and had getting rave results from people. But if I had a client that was a bodybuilder say, hey, I want to do that, I think it'll speed things up. I would say, so would a little more cardio. So let's just not.
Yeah.
I felt the same way about T3s and all these other things. They're not made to make it easier. So you got to get away from that mentality. But for what I call weekend warriors and people who have been holding weight for a long time, I think it absolutely helps. And nothing is going to keep you in the game better than results early on.
Right. So
Yeah.
one of the interesting things, I just did a quick Google, and they call it an anti-diabetic drug,
Yeah.
right? And it's interesting how it works by inducing satiety, so it makes you feel satisfied and full. So in other words, what they're saying is that the best thing we have to fight diabetes is weight loss.
Is to diet. Yeah, absolutely.
Is to diet.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
it does help
going to a
with blood
deficit.
sugar too. It will help
Yeah,
with blood sugar
yeah.
overall. But
I think that's how it makes you feel satisfied, though, right? It helps modulate blood sugar a little
what
bit.
it does is it slows gastric emptying. So that could be an issue for bodybuilding too if you're eating 5-6 times a day. So you have to watch it, because I've seen people that, because people are getting it, not through Transcend too. They're getting it through like Amino Asylum and doing it themselves. And some people, one of the problems, I've seen people going up high, like 2 milligrams a week. And I think that's crazy talk. I have probably about 5 people that I work with that are using it. And 4 of those people are not competitors. And I worked with a guy earlier this year who struggled. Like he was a good bodybuilder, and his main issue was he had a hard time dieting for longer than 12 weeks. But to get into really good shape, he had to, and he took off with it. Because and for him, you know what? I mean, he really had he had the difficulty of dealing with the hunger, and it really mentally got to him, and he ended up like not getting any more, like he wouldn't sleep. He'd get like 2 hours of sleep because he felt so hungry. And for whatever reason, he had this thing that was a barrier for him. So he was a rare case in bodybuilding. I think that it helped him, and he was able to keep dieting for longer and get into much better shape. But yeah, it slows gastric emptying, so it can also cause like gastric upset too. And in extreme cases, it can cause pancreatitis. So it's not just like a free lunch. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's but they are saying it's pretty, and it's good for women, because women who have like hyperandrogenism, where we've used drugs like metformin or berberine, if we can control blood sugar with that, we could get some of those same benefits that you would. So for like the women that maybe like the housewife who has that hard time, like she's literally eating nothing and she can't lose fat, like that lady, it could be really beneficial for her. But definitely something you still have to be careful with. But yeah, that's the thing, Ron, is that it slows gastric emptying, and because of that, then you feel full. But then you get stomach acid too if that gets too slow. You got to drink a lot of water with it too. Keep flushing it.
I got to give your client a little props, by the way, because I'm assuming you might listen, because the fact that you wanted to bodybuild bad enough to find a way around this issue. Like, I mean, it sounds like I'm kidding, but I mean, dead serious. Like most people, when they hit a roadblock, they're like, never mind, it's not worth it. So it's pretty cool, because you can, I think I'm obsessed with perspective. So you could listen to that and go, oh, that's weak. Just do it. Or you can look at it and go, you found a different map to get around this issue because you wanted to bodybuild bad enough. I think that's pretty awesome, actually, that he found a way that worked for him. Because as a prep coach, I got to tell you, if somebody told me they're getting 2 hours of sleep, I'd be like, bail. Yeah. Bodybuilding is not good for you. That is not healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
and in previous preps, he had tried like medications and sleep drugs, and it's like, it was a mess. So it was a much better answer for him than that.
Hats off to him for sure, man.
That's an interesting perspective, Dusty. I like that.
Yeah. That's actually interesting just as its own topic too. Like, I mean, I've got clients where, you put them on a diet and you ask them how it's going, and they're like, yeah, good. Everything's good. Workouts are good, and then this kind of goes like that the whole prep. Yeah. And they get tired and they get hungry, but it just kind of powers through and everything's fine. And then you get those clients where, like, 14 weeks out, they're like, yeah, I can't sleep. And I'm like, I'm so hungry. And you're looking at the food and you're like, you've got carbs in like 5 of your meals.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Like it visually looks like, you like 7 ounces of steak and chicken in each meal, and you have like a cup of rice with each meal, and you already can't sleep, and you're already got like, and I don't mean to sound like an insensitive prick,
but here he comes. But here it comes.
But sometimes I just think that a lot of this stuff is just created in people's heads. You know, like there's just got to be something going on. There's got to be something going on. Like there's always something got to be going on. It can't just be cool. So always got to be something going on. And I just sometimes feel like, you know, obviously if you got someone on like 6 ounces of fish with asparagus and 2 hours of cardio and like, and they're complaining about,
feel like
it's
shit.
been a rough week.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just think, I'm like, really? You having problems with this, eh? That's funny. Like, and I just think that some of the problems, you know, like I had one guy the other day, he's like, oh yeah, you know, I took a shot of Tren. He told me, he goes, yeah, I took a shot of Tren. And like, oh man, like that night, whew, night sweats. I could see I was like, ooh, I was pacing the house. I was like, oh, I just wish I could go to sleep, dripping sweat. And he's telling me this like one shot of Tren experience.
did
And
one.
I'm just thinking, I think this is
impossible.
just you.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah. I think this is just you. I think you like worked yourself into a frenzy. I think that people do this with so many things. I don't know. Just chill.
The nice
Just
thing
calm
is, though,
and quiet.
sometimes it's positive, you know, because I've had that before when I had the stores. Like someone would come in and I'm like, hey, man, how's you? Because they'd come straight over from the LA Fitness across the street. How's workout? Man, on best numbers I've ever had in my life. And I'm like, oh, nice. He goes, yeah, I took Sustanon this morning. I'm like, oh, he goes, yeah, first time. And I'm like, ever?
Yeah.
He's like,
But
"Nah." I'm
hey,
like,
you know,
it's not in you at all. Actually, I mean, it's technically in you, but it's no,
Right,
no.
right.
But he got himself there, and I'm like, I literally had to, like, he left, and the owner is a great bodybuilder back in there. And he laughed. He goes, I love that you didn't have the heart to tell him. I'm like, yeah, why? It was working.
Right.
The Sustanon did make him stronger, not it, but mentally. So yeah, cool, it worked.
That's great. That is great.
yeah. Yeah,
You're right. There are
a lot of
spins
that,
run
you know.
on those things because this morning I'm like slammed with work and things right now. So I've had to alter my schedule to be more efficient. So I decided, all right, we're going to start training in the morning on an empty stomach. We're just going to get up, take the aminos. So literally I woke up this morning, drank a liter of water with aminos and salt.
Yeah.
And then I do a half scoop of mutants all in, and then mix another aminos and go to the gym. We got done training, and this is first for both of us to not have food in our system. I'm like, that was a really good workout, huh? She's like, yeah. I'm like, do you feel any different? No.
Dang.
I think people have that in their head so much more than accurate. Not to say there's no difference. I mean, if I train 5 meals deep, trust me, I'm stronger. But the idea that it's going to be terrible because you didn't eat if you ate well the day before is not accurate at all. So I think that's another example where people get it in their head, or, you know, they pull carbs out and they're like, oh, I'm so tired today because I didn't have carbs. I'm like, it's not really how it works, to be honest.
Yeah. It's a process.
I think the key that you just mentioned was, well, mental attitude. and
salt and water.
Salt and water. You're like real focused on hydration, which I say this all the time. Like, hydration's way more of a workout predictor than food, man. Like, just think of all those diets you did on no carbs, like all those 3-week zero. Like, I've done 0 carbs for like days on end, and still like training. You know? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hydration is the magic. I think that's the part that gets missed. I mean, that was the first thing I did this morning. All right, drink, salt, get another one ready, go, and work. None of the numbers were down. Everything was normal. So and no one.
How much do you weigh now, Dusty? What's going on?
That's a tough topic.
Yeah.
So, you know, I dieted down, or was dieting down for our trip, and then my friend died, so I just kind of leveled out. So I was around 277 when we left, and then we went down there and just did our thing, and my body reminded me that it likes to be big, because I came home and I stepped on the scale Monday morning or Saturday morning, and I was 290.
Damn.
And I was like, whoops.
Jeez.
Whoops, it shot right back up. So today is back to grilled burgers and no buns. And I was like, because I felt great and looked awesome at 275.
Okay.
You know, it's not that it looks terrible, but like, I'm 42 years old. I do not need to be 300 pounds. I'm like, no. come back down. And it's just funny because we didn't eat like crazy, but you eat 3 times a day, kind of whatever. Yeah. And you put on 13 pounds. Like,
I don't know if I mentioned to you guys, but I just kind of had that happen when I went to Toronto. It was probably the most off my diet I've gone on a trip in years. I just ate nothing but restaurant food. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't even try. It was like every meal I was like, whatever. I just went off. It's like 4 straight days of that. I was weighing 240 most mornings, right? Mm-hmm. And the night I got home, which is nighttime weight, mind you. But the night I got home from Toronto, I weighed myself. I was 257.
That's a jump. That is a jump.
Mind you, that's nighttime weight. So I was like, holy smoke. So then I went to sleep that night. I kept it tight that night. You know, I think I just had like
one bowl of Oreos
back on clean food. And I remember that night, the first night I was back, I got up and pissed like 4 fucking times. Just boom, boom, boom. Next morning, 249.
It probably peeled, just veins everywhere.
Yeah, but 249, you put on 9 pounds in 4 days.
I put on 9 pounds when I was away. Like yielded 9 pounds after I got home, you know. And then within a week, as of 1 week after the trip, I was 240 again. So all I have to do is just get back on the normal routine and just get back to my normal activity levels, and it just like comes right off.
Yeah,
yeah. That's the thing too, is because you've battled so hard to get down there. And that's the thing. I haven't seen 270 since I last competed, other than when I, was in the hospital. So my goal is to actually like weigh 270 day in and out for a while, because it's and I'm like, but I didn't realize how far away that was. Like when I got to 277, I was like, wow, this is gonna be a big 7 pounds, huh?
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
So Ron working his way down to 240 because. Obviously we've been in touch every day pretty much since. And I remember when he was like 260 something. I'm like, I cannot believe you got to 260. And it was a long time before he ever said anything about 250. A long time.
Yeah, it was. No, I've seen 239 a few times too.
Have you?
Like blows me away. I'm like, holy smokes. Because I was 230 when I graduated high school.
Right.
So like,
that's classic.
Smoke.
Looks different.
Almost
now.
come full circle. I've almost come full circle.
Yeah,
you didn't look like that. The 230 that you might hit this time is going to look a little different than it did when you graduated high school.
Yeah,
skinless.
Yeah. That's the goal. Hey, what do we got left, buddy?
Let's see here. So we had a bunch of questions still. Dusty had some good ones here. What about this one? We got a good one here. Currently at 6 to 8 total sets per body part. Is that too high? Is the lowest volume the goal?
So as far as his total number of sets, it's like hard without seeing what his sets look like, and what exercises he's picking and stuff. But generally that's probably an okay range to train in for a lot of people. I assume he's just counting work sets. He said total sets. So does that include warm-ups? Because he said total sets. So
I assumed that was working.
Working sets,
yeah.
So the main part of that question is lowest volume the goal?
Exactly.
Right. And I would say that it might stimulating an adaptation is the goal.
Yep.
Right. And I think that one mistake that I made, or not a mistake, but a way of thinking that wasn't quite accurate, was that I was kind of looking for the perfect number of sets. And I think that that's maybe a moving goal post from week to week that you're never going to nail all the time. Like, I think that number fluctuates and bounces around and moves around depending on a lot of factors. So you have to train in a good range of volume. You know what I mean? I guess the search for the perfect number of sets is maybe a little futile. But, there is a range that makes sense. And it's all about recovering and making progress. Like, if your strength is going up, then you're recovering and you're making progress. So that's an important thing. Are your workouts good? Do you feel strong? Even if you get the same number of reps as last week, how did the set feel? Was your range of motion maybe a little better? Was your control maybe a little better? All those things factor in, but you have to be making progress. And one thing that I really like is incrementally increasing volume a little bit. Like mentally, I would do this in like a cyclical way. I would maybe do 4 working sets of chest and get as strong as I could. And then if my strength didn't move at all, I might just add a 5th set of chest. You know what I mean? And then just create like an overload that way. And then maybe a 6th set of chest, maybe doing 6 working sets or 8 working sets. But then, I would reset.
Back down. Yep.
Reset, and do it again. I would sort of do that mentally a lot. I'd add like, I'm going to do one more quad movement for this month. I'm going to do an extra quad movement all month and just push it, or something like that. So I don't know. I think the search for the perfect number of sets is maybe very, very difficult. But I like that he's thinking that way because it encourages efficiency, right?
That's the word I was waiting to hear you say.
There you go. So then you don't spend time on junk volume, I guess is the term, If you've only got 8 sets of chest, you're going to pick like hard movements where you can really load the pecs, you're not going to do a whole bunch of fluff.
When you want to, like you said, Ron, with the ultimate goal is to create adaptation, you want to do that as efficiently as possible. So it's not about the number of sets, or it's finding the most efficient way to get that done and then get out. And that's why, like when I answered yesterday, I pointed out that for some people, that's not enough. For some people, that's too much. You have to find for yourself. And like you said, Ron, it's a moving thing with what's going on in life, all those types of deals. You got to find the most efficient way to train to get your end goal every time you're not in the gym, not even just every cycle of training. I mean, there are days that you come in and you go, okay, there ain't a lot here today, so I'm going to get 4 really good sets and I'm going to roll and call it a win and get out of here without an injury. And next week, hopefully be back to that 6 that I usually do. I think too many of us, and I know I was guilty of this back in the day, was I had a logbook and it had numbers written on it, and that was all that mattered. That you do what is written down as if you are in prison and there's no other option. And when I got, later in my career, and when it was over, I realized some days that's not the move. Some days you have to actually say, scrap that entire movement. It doesn't feel right. Do something else, so you definitely want to make sure you're efficient and you're somewhat pliable.
Flexible. Yeah.
With what you're doing.
That's good. I've got nothing to add. Did you guys have anything good you want to wrap up with? Any kind of like solid finisher question, Ron? I know you usually have something real. Well, you already had your one funny question. Do you have anything else you can think of that'd be like a good one to wrap us up with?
I was going to say one thing. I checked out the Tren Twins.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to. Were they funny?
Oh, there we go.
Hey, I checked out. Oh, I'm frozen now. See? There we go.
We're back.
Am I back?
We're good.
So I checked out the Tren Twins, and it's, I can't blame them. I can't knock the hustle.
Yeah? Tell us about them. Like, what are they? Because I still didn't see them yet.
Well, I didn't deep dive research. I just checked them out.
Okay.
But
I watched one video.
Yeah. They're just, they know they've got something, right? They're strong. They squat 5 plates, they bench 4 plates. Like, they're strong. They train hard. And they get, like, it seems to me that they know it's bullshit. Like, there's so much bullshit in the industry, and they're taking the piss out of all of it. Okay. And they're making fun of themselves, and they're like, so far, I'm just a new follower of them. Yeah. So, I can't say I've seen all their stuff. I'm sure they got a bunch of different types of stuff they do, but yeah, they're, manic lifts, sick edits, and mainly memes. The bras really went off with this one. Oh, I'm frozen again. But yeah, they're hilarious, and it looks like they're taking they're definitely comedians, like they're funny, And they're strong. They train hard. They move some real weights. So I can't knock the hustle. It looks like they're doing really well. I mean, the followers are crazy. So I assume there's some income happening there.
Hopefully. Yeah, that's cool.
You know? Get that bag.
Yeah. Yeah, they used to be around here. They trained at, you know where else they used to train was over at RTB Gym, where Tino gave us those sweatshirts. Yeah, I guess they trained there for a while too. They're here for a long time. I never even knew it. They're gone now. Now funny. Hollywood swept them away. They live somewhere else.
I was going to do a quick touch on our way out. So, you know, when I traveled, I went to the Powerhouse in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
And I shot you guys a couple texts, but I just had to say this. So they had some good equipment in that gym, like some good pieces. And where I train here, we don't have much good equipment, to be honest with you. The gym is severely lacking on some good equipment. And I quickly was punched in the face with the fact that good equipment does not make a great gym.
Yep.
Because I could not get home fast enough to train in my severely lacking equipment gym.
Really?
Yeah, and it was just interesting because a couple things that are really basic. Layout was terrible. So if you wanted to use dumbbells, just imagine, Ron, doing the dumbbells in your smoothie section.
Right.
Up to 150 pounds with 4 or 5 benches. And it was claustrophobic in that area to the point where everyone feels like they're in everyone's way because you are. But there's also nowhere else to go. You know what I mean? Yeah. So not trying to knock the specific gym and just say they were terrible. They were great to me. They set us all up. We did our thing. We trained for a week on passes. It was fine. But it was very interesting to see that piece because you walk in. If you see their Instagram, you're like, you guys got great equipment. Then you go there and it was actually a pretty monster letdown because it wasn't functional to use the equipment. You know, just the way they laid it out. The cardio took up the majority of the gym, and then the equipment was the afterthought. You know, and I think and hey, for that gym, that might have been on purpose. But based on the people I saw in their training, it wasn't the greatest move because there were a lot of people trying to use equipment that were on top of each other. So it was just a fun thing to realize. And like so I sent to you guys, I'm like, man, it's funny to be sitting in a gym with better equipment than mine and saying, man, I can't wait to get home so I can train.
Yeah, layout is layout and flow, and I'm real big on plates. I'm real big on plates. Like, I don't want to be standing at a leg press and look around and there's no plates. Like, where are your weight trees? Why aren't there a bunch of 45s here? We're in the leg section. That stuff drives me crazy. Yeah. So functionality, you know, and that's funny because we just added, you know, we've added a couple of hip thrusts to the gym now. We've got the Nautilus hip thrust and the hammer glute drive, both of those, and they're both really popular. But they both eat plates. Like they both, you know, people go up to like four plates a side on those things, right? So sometimes there's 2 of them, both of them are being used, and both people are at 3 or 4 plates a side, and we're like, oh, we've added equipment to the gym. We now need to add more plates because now there's more plate loaded equipment. So just the other day was the first time that I was like, oh shit, I need to actually walk over to that hack to get a plate. I'm like, oh, time for new plates. But that's what happens when the owners train at the gym.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, sure. Man.
Right? You go, oh, time to order plates. I just noticed it. Here we go.
That said, though, Dusty, you did meet people at that gym that watched the show, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I met quite a few people that watched the show. I wish I was better with names because actually one young guy and if he's listening, he'll know who he was, but he was posing. They had like a little corner room that literally had a squat press in it, like a squat cage and some hyper extensions. He was doing some posing there and he came out real quick and introduced himself and he looked awesome. Huh. I mean, you know, there aren't many people when you don't know who they are I saw him before he introduced himself in the gym. I just didn't want to bother the guy. He was training back and him and his guy were getting after it. But I was like, you look nuts, you know? So it's good to see some people like that just catch your eye because bodybuilding is alive and well. I just think that guys are more strategic in their competing now. So you don't see it as often at these smaller shows. Like I looked at him and I'm like, that's a future pro for sure. I mean, I didn't ask him any questions. I don't know if he's getting ready for the USA's right now, but whether he is or not, if he wants to be, he will be a pro. You know, I mean, it was just all the things I didn't have, he had. You know, great insertions, good shape. It was awesome. I didn't like
with
him.
People.
Good looking. It was terrible, actually. But yeah, no, that was an interesting thing though, because you know it was important because I'm looking at, you know, we're looking at doing a gym, and it's like it's obvious, but it's not until you're in the middle of a gym. And like you said, Ron, I think what happens is people put the equipment in and they just leave it there. Because I know, for example, you know, you just put the video up at Muscle Factory. I think Lance moved that gym 762 times. I mean, every time I come in, I'm like, Lance, where's my equipment? Like, you've literally, I mean, he would move the gym until, and now it's funny because I used to tease him, but when we walked in there, there's a reason. Because literally it's perfect now. Like there's not a single complaint of walking through, using equipment, getting plates, being in the way. And I think when you have more of a corporate structured gym, that fits there is the end of it.
Yeah.
There is a space that holds that footprint, the end.
Yeah. I remember one gym that we trained at. My friend and I actually moved 2 pieces of equipment. We took this, they had a leg press, the Cybex squat press. You know how the Cybex squat press doesn't have a rack on it? Like you can't load plates on the frame. It's just the leg press, right?
Yeah.
So they had that, and then they had a normal leg press and a normal hack. But they had the squat press on the outside of the row. So
put it in the middle.
Plates that go on that side of the squat press, you have to grab, and you have to walk all the way around the machine to load the side, and there's nowhere to offload the plates. So one day we were there and we're like, let's just move these 2 leg presses. So we just swapped the 2 leg presses. And now the squat press was in the middle, and there was plates on both sides of it. So it was way easier to load and unload.
Yeah.
And I remember we did that, and like 2 members came up. Like we just moved them ourselves. 2 members came up. They're like, oh my God, I've been waiting for someone to do this for years. and then and the next time I came in, the one manager goes, hey, did you guys move? He was like really upset. Oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, oh man, we're just trying to help. And he's like, man, you can't do that. Like that's dangerous. Like people see you do that, they're going to want to move stuff. And everyone's going to want to move stuff. You just can't move stuff. It was just funny. He goes, we're trying to help.
That's funny, man. That's great.
Just moving equipment around. Guys bringing dollies in. You know?
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Not recommended. Please don't do that at your gym.
Or at West Coast Iron.
Okay. Or at West Coast Iron. We bolt some stuff down. Okay. Okay. Is that it for this one, guys?
I had a shout out. I had a shout out for one of my clients, Nick Fucolo. He's been working with me for a long time. When we first started working together, he was like, hey, I'd like to get in shape, like if I were doing a contest or something. And then we did that, and I was like, dude, why don't we do this but for real? Let's add some muscle and do this but for real, do a contest. And that was like 2017. And fast forward to this past weekend, he was getting ready for the Pennsylvania State Championships in light heavyweight. And we realized, we're like, I think that you can fit in classic. How tall are you? So we pegged it right at like 198 was his cap. And we were able to bring him in at like 197.5. So he made the classic height, and we're like, let's just try it. He was able to get trunks in time. He ended up winning. And so here's the other thing. They were running 2 shows at once. There was the Pennsylvania State Championships plus this other show. So Nick told me, he was like, I just entered all the classes that I could. And he ended up winning in the other show. He ended up winning his class in bodybuilding, in classic, and in masters. Then he went to the state championships and he won his class in bodybuilding, masters, and open, classic, and then he won the overalls for all 3 of those as well. So at the Pennsylvania State Championship, he literally won 12 trophies. He went into the show. He ended up with 6 trophies Yes, whatever it was 12 trophies altogether. It took him 3 armfuls to carry them off, like to get him to his car. He literally had to make 3 trips. So we weren't even a classic competitor, as of 2 weeks ago. And we made that. And it was the guy I sent you the pictures of, Ron. And I was asking you, what do you think about this guy doing funny. Classic? So yeah, he ended up doing good. Did you even tell him there's less poses, or was he out there hitting lat spreads? Yeah, no. I told him. We went over it. Like, we were on FaceTime doing, and so he came up on there. Yeah, just throw him on. Yeah. So it is crazy.
He's up there hitting crabs.
We were just hoping that he could, win his class and hopefully win the overall. And he ended up winning 3 overalls plus a bunch of other trophies. So I was so happy for him.
That's an awesome story.
He called me immediately after. I was waiting to hear what happened. And when he was calling me on video, I was like, oh shit, I think things went really good. And he was in the sun. He was in the car with his son and stuff and his family. And he was just so freaking happy. I was so happy for him. So that was cool. Nice. That was cool. And now we're going to go to Universe, or if you're old, Team Universe, which is happening in another couple of weeks. So we're doing that. And I wanted to give a shout out to Christopher Marzen, who I just met him on social media. Turns out he competed in that show with Nick, up against Nick, and he messaged me after we talked a minute, and he was like, "Hey, I listened to the show too. Been listening for a long time." So I wanted to give him a shout out too. He was there as well.
That's cool,
and he had great physique too. So,
that's worthy of a mention when someone kind of overly achieves a whole shitload of trophies.
He was he was like, dude, they just kept calling my number. They were like, number 6, and the new champion, number 6.
Number 6.
Number 6. Number 6. And he's so like, funny. He was shocked, man.
Well, I bet his glutes were in.
Yeah, close. And the thing with him is that his glutes are they've always been a struggle. So it was really his shape. Everything is in. The glutes are right there. We have just enough time to really get those things peeled, but his physique held together. Hamstrings are just nasty. And put it this way, 2 years ago, he took the year off, and the year before that, we were like, we got to bring your glutes up, because we basically burnt him down to get the glutes to come in, and they still weren't there. So it's muscle. Right. Yeah, it's been his biggest trouble area, and we got them to grow. They still could use some improvement, but they're a lot better now. But that's been his weak spot. But everything else, like the flow and everything, he fit for classic, he fit for bodybuilding.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. Yeah.
Okay.
Heck yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. I had a good time today chatting, another show under our belts. What episode number are we on, Scott?
It's 230-ish, somewhere in there. I look every week before I post it, and I write it in there. But yeah, we're around 230.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
That one took a long time because I really got to take a leak. Yeah. So we're out of here. Remember, Mutant, IamMutant.com, IamMutant.com, Dusty20 and Big Ron 20. Think Big Bodybuilding Media, Patreon. Hit them up. Price a cup of coffee. Thanks to everybody. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.